Hey, welcome back. My next guest is Dr. Lee Hanna. He's the Assistant Professor of Political Science at Wright State University. Dr. Hanna, welcome to our show.
Thanks so much for having me, James.
So, Lee, it's great to be talking to you on this day. This is the day of the midterm elections. What is happening in the United States? I mean, there's an expectation that the Senate will flip, but the House will not.
Well, the expectation is that the House will likely flip to Democratic control, and the Republicans, who have a two-seat majority in the Senate, are likely to hold, if not gain a seat.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So then, how is that expected to impact the path towards legalization of cannabis, which is one of the bigger hot button issues emerging now?
Sure. Yes. So we have the potential of four more states liberalizing their cannabis laws, either with medical marijuana or with recreational marijuana. Three of those are polling pretty strongly. And along with that, you have just kind of increasing pressure. Mexico just had a court ruling that came down on the first that effectively legalizes some form of recreational there. Of course, Canada has passed their own laws, and so now we're living in a country with the majority of our states with some type of liberal or some type of legal access to marijuana, more medically than recreationally, but that's picking up as well. And at the same time, you have pressure from both of our neighbors now to where they're not going to have kind of the same I guess, enforcement efforts that we still do, at least at the federal level here.
Hmm. So then, at the federal level, it seems that the president is well. It's unclear as to what his real sentiment is towards legalization. But certainly, some people around him are hardliners against legalization. Of course, I'm referring to Jeff Sessions. What
Mhm.
kind of impediment to federal de-prohibition is the immediate circle of Donald Trump likely to impart on the process?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, there's a lot of talk that Jeff Sessions could potentially be on his way out, and you know to the extent that Trump brings in someone that has a different point of view is hard to know at this point. And I think a lot will come from this election. I mean, the truth is, if they really get take a hit tonight, especially if there's a bigger blue wave than maybe we anticipate, then maybe there is some room for a policy win. I mean, I think one thing we've seen from Donald Trump is he's he's got some very strong ideological views about immigration and a handful of other air trade. But when it comes to some of these social issues, he might be more malleable than some previous presidents. So perhaps some pressure could build. And then there's also that appealing. A lot of Republicans in the state in the U.S. like to talk about states' rights, and the truth is marijuana is one of the best examples of a state right, but the truth is the conflict between the state and the federal position right now makes it really challenging. And so there could be some Republicans that philosophically would be more open to kind of moving on marijuana and dropping some of the federal restrictions that make it so hard to advance.
Hmm. One of the aspects of President Trump's administration and the president himself is that he's always very quick and eager to seize upon what he views as opportunities of national economic interest. And
Hmm.
so I wonder, and not fully understanding the US political process, obviously, as I do the Canadian, but how likely is it that he could just, if somebody whispered in his ear, look, Donald, you legalize this, you're creating a multi-billion-dollar opportunity in the United States, and you'll divert the attention away from the many criticisms you're suffering now. Uh, how likely is it that he could actually just deprohibit cannabis by executive order? Is that something that's feasible?
As far as I understand, he actually could. Presumably he, as the president, does have quite a bit of power in that realm. On the one hand, like you say, the financial argument could win out. Marijuana legalization in different forms polls better than it did 5, 10 years ago, for a number of reasons. I guess the pushback would be that he does have a core constituency of religious conservatives, which is kind of the last group to move on this issue. So he certainly would face some pressure and some blowback from that direction. But you're not wrong in saying that given his lack of predictability, given the fact that he likes wins, and this would be more bipartisan than some other things that maybe he's gone for. Perhaps after this election, maybe he would be a bit more open minded, at least to maybe take some, maybe not to go full on um, recreational, but to at least change some federal positions so states can continue to do what they're doing with less interference.
Mm-hmm. John Boehner, former Speaker of the House, penned an op-ed piece in the New York Times this weekend wherein he unequivocally came down on the side of cannabis de-prohibition at the federal level. And
Hmm.
there's been certain business leaders in the cannabis space also agitating. How influential is John Boehner in this capacity as former Speaker of the House?
Yeah, I think that certainly someone like him does send a stronger signal, given that he was such a strong Republican leader, and Republicans tend to have the more conservative position on this. Um, and certainly, legislators like Earl Blumenauer and Dana Rohrabacher, if he gets reelected, they are influential, as well as Senator Cory Gardner and Elizabeth Warren, who have some policies. So it does seem like that there are some incremental ways to move forward, that could benefit a lot of people, either economic actors or people in the medical side of things who are very interested in this. I know I was recently in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, talking with someone who worked on medical marijuana in Pennsylvania, and their biggest problem has been the fact that we have FDA regulations that keep marijuana on par with kind of the worst of the worst drugs with no medical value. And so there's just so many challenges, given our federal structure, to do research or to deal with any type of cross state trade or anything like that. And so yeah, I think you're right. I think John Boehner, who actually lives just a little north of me, his move as kind of an activist in this area is certainly, I think, helps take on steam, because I think my guess is a lot of Republicans privately probably don't care too much. This is probably not a high priority, but publicly there's still some pressure or expectation that they have a prohibitionist position. But I think that's slowly changing.
Mm-hmm. All right, Dr. Lee Han, Assistant Professor of Political Science at Wright State University, thank you very much. We'll come back to you in due course and get an
Please
update on the
do.
political situation there.
This was fun. Thanks so much, James.
Thank you. Bye for now.
All right, take care.